So, let's get into this movie that's extremely not dumb.
Oh, it's the complete opposite of dumb.
It's so good. Okay. You do some research, Nina? Because I did a little bit by accident. Like, oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah, I did. A documentary came out with the signature edition called The Making of the Iron Giant. And it is exactly what it sounds like. I have not seen the film, but I have read various sources that are using information garnered from that documentary. So now we know a lot more about the production of this movie that everybody loves.
Or you're about to by us. We're going to tell you if you don't know.
Yeah, we're going to tell you. All right. If you don't know, the film is based on a book written by Ted Hughes, who's an English novelist. In the English version, it was called The Iron Man, but because of, Marvel, in the United States, it's The Iron Giant. And then that book was read by one Pete Townshend of The Who, and he decided to make a musical, he made a concept album off of the book, and then later adapted into a stage play that Warner Brothers saw and were like, that's a good idea for a movie. And so they acquired it as a film to make into a film, and then it became this movie.
Yeah, and I knew that Pete Townsend is an executive producer of this movie, and I knew that, and when I saw his name in the credits, I'm like, what the fuck? It's so weird.
Yeah, originally they were going to base it more off of the story of the book and use his songs and stuff, but once Brad Bird sort of got on board, he had his own ideas, and Pete was totally fine. He's like, I don't give a shit. I'm getting paid, so they can do whatever they want.
Apparently, that album was pretty poorly received.
Yeah, I have not heard it. I want to, though.
Pete Townsend is Hogarth in the musical.
Well, I mean, in the album, because he sings the main leads, and the main leads are.
But just to look at a cast list and see Hogarth, Pete Townsend.
But yeah, that's why Hogarth's name is Hogarth Hughes, because in the book he didn't have a name, so they gave him the name of the author.
Oh, the giant was John Lee Hooker.
Yeah,
blues
there was
singer.
a lot of
That's cool.
There was a lot of cool people on that project.
Pete Townsend is like, you guys know, you the listener, and maybe Tooch, because I don't need to have I talk about this. You know he was the first guy to come up with the internet, right?
I didn't know that.
Do you know about Lifehouse?
No.
Lifehouse is the album that he started working on after Tommy. That was going to be another concept album, and when it was scrapped, a lot of it was salvaged into Who's Next.
And other stuff. It
is the most ambitious idea for an album to this day, still ever. There's going to be an interactive element at live shows where you would plug in a person's a bunch of data about their life, and it was going to generate a synth hook, and allegedly the one from either Baba O'Reilly or Won't Get Fooled Again was
one of these people.
Was based off of the data from one of the two guys Baba O'Reilly is named after.
Yeah, Lifehouse is impossible. That's why it never became anything.
Still impossible.
Because even Pete didn't know how to pitch it to anyone, and the rest of the bandmates were like, "What? It
was going to involve global, some kind of global database of shared data that people would submit, and oh, that's the internet." He came up with the internet in 1968 or whenever. And didn't you say he also
wow?
You mentioned the Cheddar that he's a big fan of anime.
Apparently he likes anime because he read that book Japan America, and he's the review on the cover of the book, and he's like, this book is the best book ever. It's something that we've been waiting for a long time. I needed this in my life.
I tried to invent anime in 1964, but it was impossible. Anyway, that's Pete Townsend.
Okay, so the film began development in 1994, though the project really only took root once Bird signed on as director and then hired McCain Lines to write the screenplay in 1996. It is famous for being incredibly well received, but doing terribly at the box office, for reasons we'll get into, mainly to do with poor promotion on Warner Brothers' part.
Well, just noting that the film's financial failure at the box office was partly due to a lack of promotion. I feel like I've heard that before with Warner Brothers and their 2D animated films that they put in theaters, mainly because it reminded me of Batman: Mask of the Phantasm when that came out, because that's what happened to that one. So,
I guess we can. Do you want to talk about that now? Then?
Well, Nikki had a point.
Well, what I was trying to say is that, we're going to move forward with this movie assuming everybody has seen it, because, I mean,
that's what we always
don't need to waste. We often summarize the plot, and I think we can just skip that entirely because everybody has seen this movie, and if not, they're not allowed to listen. It would be weird to summarize the plot of The Iron Giant, because it's everybody's seen it, and B, it's become very archetypal. Archetypal. Yeah. You guys went to college. What's that word?
Archetypal? That's how I would
say
it.
That sounds the best one.
We write stuff. I've written plenty of words that I don't know how to say out loud because nobody expects me to.
So, the reason why it failed was because Warner Brothers totes goofed. This was partly because, Quest for Camelot didn't do so well.
Oh, so they weren't forgot about that one.
Yeah, they weren't super thinking they had to do. They didn't want to lose money again, essentially, and they didn't give Bird and the team a release date for the film until April 1999. The film was done, but they kept pushing it back because they weren't sure when would be a good time.
Yeah, but Disney was coming out with stuff, and they're still trying to find slots where they wouldn't be eaten alive.
Well, Warner Brothers was shocked when they did their first test screenings for the film. And the test scores were some of the highest the company had in 15 years. It was... And they were like, shit. They had no clue people were going to like the movie.
Yeah,
they kind of told them, yeah, you guys... Because they gave Bird a lot of creative freedom. Very little money, but a lot of freedom. But they didn't really check up on what they were doing, and they kind of just didn't assume that they never checked up to see what they were dealing with.
They never watched the thing.
Yeah, so Bird said later that they didn't know what the hell we were doing. They didn't know what they had. They fundamentally did not care.
They had neglected to prepare a successful marketing strategy, cereal, fast food tie-ins, whatever, before the scheduled release. The studio only produced one teaser poster for the film, which became the eventual poster.
And that's the B-movie tribute one, right? It came from outer space?
Yeah, I believe so.
Which is a good teaser poster. It's not a good theatrical poster.
Nope.
As it stands now, I think it's brilliant. I think it's very thematic. I think it's great. It's not what you would use to actually promote a movie.
Yeah, they were going to do a Burger King tie-in, but... so they showed the film to Burger King, and Burger King was like, yeah, sure, we'll get involved. Give us, half a year or whatever to do this tie. And they're like, oh, no, we want to release the movie now. And it's like, dog, we were making the movie for over a year. That was the time to do all that shit, and they didn't do any of it.
How do you think we're going to make these toys? We're just going to make them out of burgers? We got to, make them.
They had 2.5 years to prepare, and the movie was done on time, and they were like, oh shit, we're not ready! So the studio needed an $8 million opening to ensure success, but because they didn't do jack shit, nobody knew about the film. So not that many people went to go see it. And even though it got amazing reviews, it wasn't enough. Apparently the studio had spent more money marketing fucking Wild Wild West than they did this movie.
Man, how did Warner Brothers even make it into the 21st century with what they were doing in the late 90s?
I don't fucking know. I mean, they're Warner Brothers. They were probably doing a million other things, too. They fucking own DC Comics.
Yeah, in the 90s, I don't think that was making any money. By 1999... That was a hole to burn money in. But most studios would, like, release Wild Wild West with all that marketing and just die immediately.
Yeah.
They're too big to fail.
So, when the project was, in late 96, when they were developing the project, they actually sought out Brad Bird, who at the time was working for Turner Feature Animation, developing Ray Gun. And because Turner Entertainment had merged with Warner Brothers to create Time Warner, it was really easy for him to transfer over and just start directing immediately. So there wasn't a lot of, like, legal paperwork stuff. So it kind of came together pretty smoothly. Bird read the original book, was really impressed by it. He was given a crazy amount of creative control because Warner Brothers essentially left them alone to do whatever they wanted. He created new characters. He didn't use Townsend's music. He pitched it around the idea of what if a gun had a soul? And that was like the thrust.
That sounds like a Miyamoto pitch, but he didn't then immediately leave the room like apparently Miyamoto does in all these interviews.
Yeah.
Like the thing from Metroid Prime is like, what if Samus had a bug's head? Alright, I got a plane to catch.
So the original novel was set in England, but, Bird decided, to move it to the UK, to move it to the United States, because he felt that the 50s period would be a perfect setting for this alien creature to land, with the Norman Rockwell kind of aesthetic. That's why the city is called Rockwell.
I amazingly did not catch that.
You know what's interesting? I didn't make that connection of the town name, but when he went to the diner, I was like, oh, that's very Rockwell. Stupid idiot me.
The whole
right
town
there.
is Rockwell. That's why we're talking about it now in autumn. Because everything's all pretty and picturesque.
Once you know to look for it, in all these, like, orange cartoons that we've talked about, like this or like Gravity Falls, like, you notice a lot of blue accents. Like in that first scene,
orange and blue is
they're
a very common. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of films are orange and blue.
Yeah, so now that I've like noticed that I'm supposed to pay attention to that, like, notice the thing is like in that first scene where it's just like showing the town as he rides around his bike, I'm like, man, fucking everything that's not orange is blue. This movie has two colors, and then I started getting
dog.
Yeah, and then I started getting like immersed in the characters and everything, and forgot to keep noticing that, but that was probably still true throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, because yellow and purple are gross, and red and green is Christmas. So that leaves orange and blue.
Yeah, you got just the one.
That's all you got.
So, Tim McCain, it's spelled McCain Lies. McCain Lies.
I'm gonna go with McCandless.
McCandless.
Or McCandless.
He was hired to write the script, and initially Bird was kind of upset about it because he wanted to write it himself. But then he changed his mind when he read McCain Lines' version. No, when we read McCain Lines' screenplay for Secondhand Lions, and he was like, oh, okay, this guy knows how to write. Because in Bird's original story, America and the USSR were going to be at war at the end, and the giant was going to die.
Oh.
And McCain Lines decided to be like, was like, you can't kill E.T. and not bring him back.
Yeah.
Jerk face.
But yeah, he wrote the script in 2 months, which was a month ahead of schedule, which was nice. Like, they were very on schedule, this whole movie.
They did a good job. It's very easy to pinpoint who fucked up.
Yeah. And they were actually able to send the script to Ted Hughes, the author of the original novel, and he was blown away by it. He says, I want to tell you how much I like what Brad Bird has done. He's made something all of a piece, with terrifying, sinister, gathering momentum, and the ending came to me as a glorious piece of amazement. He's made a terrific, dramatic situation out of the way he's developed the Iron Giant. I can't stop thinking about it. Which is really refreshing when an author is, like, totally A-okay with you sort of changing their original work.
Most of the time, they're not. At least famously.
Like, he was really excited about it, which is unfortunate because he did not live to see the film be released, unfortunately.
Fucked up again, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, pretty much.
We blame you.
But yeah, this was Brad Bird's first directorial feature job ever. Like, He had worked on Family Dog and some of The Simpsons, but this was the first time it was like this was his thing. Though granted, he did listen to staff a lot. It was a very collaborative effort, and he wanted to emphasize like softer character-based moments as opposed to more frenetic scenes, which Bird thought was a problem with modern filmmaking. He said, there has to be activity or sound effects to cut, or cuts or music blaring. It's almost as if the audience has the remote and they're going to change channels. And so, and you see that in the film, obviously. It has a much softer, like much more like pensive kind of mature tone. Like it's not just like yelling at you all the time.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that, because like I noticed that it was a really good combination of having a lot of character moments, but also being like really well paced. Like the film didn't drag at all. It went the act structure I felt was really quick, but I didn't feel like it rushed at all. It was a really simple story.
Yeah, there's some stuff about like software they used to do the computer graphics, because the Iron Giant was animated digitally because it was kind of hard to make metal look fluid in 2D and of such a large size too. It was just, it seemed easier, but they purposely made him look, they purposely tried to meld him in with the 2D as much as possible.
They did an amazing job.
They did. Like, as a kid, I couldn't really tell that there was a difference.
It's one of those things, again, with the orange and blue. It's like, I'm watching, it's like, yeah, that's CG. It's really well, melded CG. And then as the movie went on, I forgot.
I had to keep reminding myself, like, every now and again, I'd just be like, oh shit, that's CG. Like, there's been stuff made after this that meld 2D with CGI. It's not as good.
Yeah, this movie's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's very beautiful. I mean, even the people making the movie were in awe of what they were creating.
What did we do?
Like, Bird's favorite moment of the production was in the editing room when the crew was gathered to test a sequence in which the giant learns what a soul is, with the deer and then the follow-up scene.
I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
And people in the room were spontaneously crying. It was pivotal. There was an undeniable feeling that we were really tapping into something.
Jesus.
And that's just like magic. Pew, pew, pew. And the giant himself was designed by Joe Johnston, who worked on a lot of designs for Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Which is something I didn't know before, but that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Because they had half of their team, Warner Brothers, they had 3/4 of an animation team to start with given to them by Warner Brothers. So Brad Bird commissioned a lot of CalArts students to assist in minor animation work to help fill the schedule. And he tried to sort of space it out between the students and the experienced animators. Can you imagine being a fucking, I don't know, junior in college and working on the Iron Giant,
fuck.
Doing in-betweens or whatever?
Yeah, you graduate and, well, it doesn't fucking matter because I already worked on the best thing I'll ever work on.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here. But in a different way than it usually is after college.
Because I did one thing instead of 0 things.
And yeah, I mean, they ran a tight ship, and they were allowed to do what they wanted, and they got it done, and then it blew up in their face. In the documentary clip that I saw at the end of the signature edition that I saw in theaters, they were saying, everybody was convinced that this movie was gonna, win an Oscar, and, people were gonna be lining up to see it, there was no doubt in their mind that this film was gonna be successful, and it just kind of fell apart due to Warner Brothers being a butt. But at the same time, because the film didn't do very well financially, as theatrically, Warner Brothers tried to make up for it by really pushing the home video release. And home video is where a lot of kids watch films, right?
Yeah, because keep them out of theaters. Don't bring them there. Keep them far away from theaters. Just cut it out.
And even more significantly, in 2000, Cartoon Network, which is owned by Times Warner, was sold the film for $3 million. And the networks would show the film constantly. I mean, that's where most people probably saw it, was at some point in Cartoon Network.
They were showing it at least once a month.
a lot.
Yeah, they showed it for 4th of July for Thanksgiving. Apparently there was one time that they showed the film continuously for 24 consecutive hours.
Yeah, they did a Groundhog Day type deal.
I don't know how I forgot about that.
In that way, it became the sleeper hit that it is, where people were able to grow up watching it and really, really love and adore it. And because it was underappreciated at the time, it became something that was more accessible later on, I guess. It all ended up working out pretty well because, like, I don't think there's anybody who hates this movie. Like, of all the critical reviews, there was only one person, like, listed here who gave a negative review. Everybody else was just, like, floored by it. Like, one of my favorite reviews here is from Bruce Fetz of Entertainment Weekly. It's commented, "I have long thought I was born without the gene that would allow me to be emotionally drawn in by drawings. That is until I saw The Iron Giant." Like, this film, like, everybody was like, the shit is on now. Like, it's a real new standard.
And I'm actually looking at Vin Diesel's filmography right now. This is his first major role. This was a year before Pitch Black.
And he poured his heart into it because he really he felt like he was the Giant. Like, he sympathized with the Giant's plight of being, like, big and bumbling and getting in people's way and, like, not knowing their place. Like, he loved playing that character. And you can tell because the Giant says, like, what, 15 different words throughout the whole film?
I was going to say, like, 20 or 30. Yeah, so, like, the other things that he had to make it fucking count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are he had no throwaway lines. Everything he says is profound. Even when it's like rock and tree.
He's probably cognizant of that. So I know he must have put his heart and soul into it because that's what he did for Guardians of the Galaxy, which is that's like a more, because it's newer, so like people are more aware of this tree effect, but it's like, you know, in that one, it's sort of, he literally only says, "I am Groot," but like next to each line, it's like a fucking paragraph of motivation and context.
Exactly.
So this motherfucker, he's a really cool guy that knows his shit.
Yeah.
He's the best at voicing big, strong dudes what don't talk much and sacrifice themselves at the end, but they're okay. They're kind of the same character, which is fine.
One's a metalman and the other's a plantman. He's voiced 2 Mega Man bosses.
But Groot knows who he is. The Giant, part of his conflict is that he's just kind of there, and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. That's why he follows everything Hogarth tells him. Rocket Raccoon to tell him.
Hogarth is his Rocket Raccoon.
A Rocket Raccoon is his Hogarth. So that's my history portion of the episode.
Part of what makes this movie work so well is that thematically it's kind of very simple. It's a boy and his dog movie.
Yeah.
And the dog is a giant robot, which is basically the only thing better than a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing I was thinking of is that next week we're doing The Good Dinosaur, a movie which in our last 2 episodes I have called The Last Dinosaur because I'm stupid as hell. And it's gonna try to do the same thing, and coming right after The Iron Giant, it's gonna have a hell of a time comparing for, you know, our perspective. Yeah. You know, there's something about robots that is inimitably human. You know, we've seen that.
They're more human than humans.
Yeah, even like real robots, like the Mars rover that was like sang happy birthday to itself alone on Mars on its birthday. That's the saddest thing that has ever happened.
Yep.
And the robot really did that. 'Cause, I mean, the Iron Giant, he's just a big baby who wants to do his best.
He's a little kid.
You know, a big part of this movie is a child having to teach another child how the world works. It is also sort of like a big brother, little brother thing going on there. Where, like, he has to teach this gigantic baby about death. And it's one of the... It's like it's so good. Like, That would actually be a great tattoo, is the Iron Giant and it says souls don't die.
God.
Yep.
Or gravestone. Man, that should be Brad Bird's gravestone. He should just buy that now. I'm gonna buy that for him for his birthday. I don't want you to die, but when you do, here's the thing. I didn't attach my name to this parcel because this is like so weird.
I'm sure he'll be flattered. Yeah, I mean the giant is just such, and it calls back to sort of like almost, I guess, kind of like King Kong almost, where you have like this giant emotional being that it's all in their face and all in their behavior, like how they act and like how you read them as a character.
Yeah, and they're being kicked around by circumstances outside of their control and are pushed into a corner to react violently. It actually is very much like King Kong, and then man is the real monster. But less of that in this movie because it's just the one dude. An interesting thing about the movie is that it's very anti-violence and guns and everything, but it doesn't demonize the military.
No, only the shitty people in the military.
Yeah, well, that guy wasn't even military. He was some government intelligence agent.
Yeah.
The military guys are out there doing their job, trying to do their best to, protect the country and everything. And then this is just some idiot slimeball who sucks. Yeah. And
he really sucks.
He sucks some.
The worst.
I always knew he was like a douchebag, but it's like watching this movie again, I'm like, he's reprehensible.
I know, threatening.
And the only reason he's allowed to exist in that movie without being tarred and feathered out of the fucking town, it was because it's the 50s, and the 50s suck. Like, a man can just harass this child in front of his own mother, and she's just like, I'm sure this is all fine.
Yeah, it's about, because you have that dynamic between Mansley and Dean, where it's the 50s. People just trust each other. So Hogarth's mom just sort of trusts that Hogarth is okay. There was no reason to, nothing had happened yet where we were like, oh shit, I can't just let my kid go outside without my supervision. Everything was cool. But, you have these two opposing figures, and Mansley is just, he's pathetic, he's maniacal, he's selfish. He even, eyes up Hogarth's mom in front of him. He's the worst person.
I'm glad cell phones exist, so whenever some crazy person is like, hey, can I use your phone? You can be like, no. Go away.
Leave my house.
No.
That was really funny, though. When he turned over the oven mitt because it was too... It was
mocking him.
Yeah, Mansley basically represents everything that sucks about the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And authority.
Yeah.
Friggin' Hogarth just slams the door on him after he sees it's from the government. Yeah, good job. Good work, kid.
Hi, sport. Okay. Kiddo. Buckaroo.
Yeah, he's such a condescending prick. And, he just watches a kid sleep as if that's okay. I'm the hero.
He chloroformed a kid as if that's okay.
And all that entails. And all that implies.
I'm glad he had diarrhea. He deserves more diarrhea.
It's pretty funny that Hogarth butt poisoned him. And
landslide.
Yeah, here's what I was thinking about that, is that what would be hilarious if we saw, just a scene, a 4-minute scene of him in the bathroom, just pale as a ghost, cold sweat, trying to reach over to the sink to drink some water because he's about to pass out from dehydration. And that whole scene, just set to the music. Well, I've been afraid of change, cause it's landslide. You were laughing.
It's not the right time period, but okay.
It's anachronistic, but it's definitely the name of the song. And I think even the name Landslide is a poop joke that Hogarth came up with.
There's also an AC/DC song called Landslide, but it's just as anachronistic.
Yeah, that's why I said it. It's a poop joke. That's why he calls it a landslide. He even said it that way.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to telegraph it too much by calling it a mudslide. Isn't that a drink?
Yeah. It's a very tasteful poop joke.
Yeah, it's even the poop joke, the one poop joke in this movie is like highbrow.
And it's hilarious. Like, he keeps going around town trying to talk to these people, like, do you have a bathroom? Like, running to go take a dump.
Fucking explodes in a bush.
I'm about to crap a hole straight through my pants.
Yeah. But, yeah. Mansley
it's gonna look like I get shot in the ass.
Do you think the giant poops? He eats.
What I was actually thinking is that why would he eat metal? And what I would think is that, like, maybe he uses it, he, like, metabolizes it, makes it part of his own body for, like, upkeep and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, something's got to power that self-rebuild mechanism.
Yeah.
I mean, he ate metal in the book, too. It was, like... Because the book itself was kind of like almost fairy tale-like. Like, it gets very different. Like, in the book, the movie only, like, takes from, like, the first half of the book, and then later the Iron Giant has to, like, save the world from this creature from space called the Space Bat Angel Dragon that, like, is apparently the size of all of Australia.
Where's that movie?
I don't know.
Like this movie's flawless. It's amazing. But in an alternate universe where we don't know what we missed, if they would have made that instead, we'd still be talking about it, not in the same way.
And then the giant defeats him by having, like, a contest where it's like, okay, I'm gonna dip my head in this burning petroleum, and you go dip your head in the sun, and we'll see how long we can last. And whoever, it's like a folktale, really.
That sounds great.
Yeah, if I was some old Greek dude, I would fucking build a temple to that. I'm pretty sure that was like the 16th labor of Hercules. Like the dumb ones. Like, after the 12th labor, they were all barbets. No, actually, that's a real thing that Thor did, is that he drank the ocean as part of a barbet, and he didn't realize that's what he was doing. Thor is the jockest jock. Yeah, and creating a dichotomy to, Mansley is Dean, who is, you know, he's
the best.
Yeah, he's like early 60s stuff happening with him, because the movie takes place in 1957. And, you know, he's like,
a beatnik.
Yeah, he's counterculture. And he's also apparently on the cutting edge of popular culture. And I checked with my buddy at work, is like, he mentions with the espresso, it's like CoffeeZilla, and I'm like, does that work time-wise? Godzilla had come out a year before the movie takes place, and this is like rural Maine, so who knows if this would, like, actually reach there. So he was on top of shit.
He probably went to some, like, art theater somewhere, and, like, didn't even have subtitles, and...
I mean, this dude, like, has a closet full of black turtlenecks. Like, I wouldn't put it past him.
This motherfucker.
This guy, who's now, like, 90 years old, is like, fucking Steve Jobs stole my bit!
He still has the same fucking soul patch.
Yeah. I mean, he's modeled after, like, you know, James Dean, obviously. Like, the cool guy of the 50s that everybody wants to be. But the cool thing about Dean is not only is he cool, he's, like, actually, like, a cool guy. Like, he's a good person.
Yeah, he's cool for real.
Like, he's cool for real. Like, he's actually, like, he doesn't make fun of Hogarth. He encourages him. He protects him. He cares about him. Like, they form a friendship. And it's really neat. Because, like, intergenerational friendships are rare and usually kind of weird, but it was just like, nah, like, he's this hip guy, and, like, Hogarth's a smart kid, and, like, they just get along really well.
I didn't catch the whole coffee rant, but did he say he skipped ahead a grade?
Yeah, Hogarth's super smart. He doesn't have any friends, and his mom pushed him up a grade because he needed to be stimulated more, and then there was the joke where it's like, I don't need to be stimulated, I'm already stimulated enough! And then Dean's like, yeah, you got that right, but... Yeah, he doesn't have any friends his own age. That's why he keeps wanting to get a pet. You know, he's being raised by a single mom. I mean, the first friends he makes are a giant robot and a 30-something beatnik artist who lives in a junkyard. And he's like a 10 to 12-year-old
He's doing a lot
kid.
better than anybody else's age.
I mean, yeah.
But that just reminds me of, like, probably my favorite line, because it's so indicative of the time period it takes place in, when Hogarth, like, discovers the giant and becomes friends with it. He just goes, like, I'm the luckiest kid in America! Just like America's the whole world to him. Like that. Although I guess to be fair, if we're counting the whole world, and especially Japan, he's like 27th luckiest kid.
Well, I mean, it's the Cold War, and it's Rockwell town, so America's the whole world, essentially.
It's just like, that's like America's whole world is just indicative of. I missed how 50s this movie was, like when I saw it as a kid, obviously.
Yeah, me too. It didn't register with me.
Because I knew it was a period piece, but then you see, especially all the commercials on TV and all the films they watch, it's all
the duck and cover thing.
It's like really, honestly, it's such heavy satire. Just like what the fuck were we thinking?
Duck and cover. Have you guys seen the?
Yes, I have seen Duck and Cover. Yes,
There's one part in the video where it's like, if you're caught outside, just find whatever cover you can. And a man just crouches down and puts a newspaper over his head. And even in this movie, the Duck and Cover parody is like, you hide under your desk, everything around you will blow up except for the desk.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Powerpuff Girls bit where they go back in time and they had that educational film about the volcano.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure that's what it was based on.
Yep.
Duck. I mean, Duck and Cover is like, you can't beat it. Like it will stand forever.
That fucking turtle.
that turtle
in the hard hat. You don't need a hard hat. You're a turtle.
But yeah, and it's super 50s. Like his mom works in a diner. Like he has
and can
TV
afford to keep a child in a home.
He has TV antenna he has to fiddle with on the roof. He wears Chucks, which were brand new and very in at the time because they had just been invented.
Have they ever not been?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Chucks were made in the 50s.
Yeah, it was like that. Just I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know they were that old.
Yeah, they're old.
It makes sense. They haven't updated the fucking blueprint for them.
Nope.
They're just pieces of rubber under your feet.
I mean, they have to be that old. How in the world is that shoe appropriate for playing basketball? Tell me, because it's like those shoes.
That's
are
true.
Not
that
good
doesn't
for
make any sense.
No, they were basketball shoes back in the day. I don't know. Those basketball players must have had the most gangly ass feet in the world. Yeah, and then the 50s ties in, of course, with like the setup and the theming. Mansley embodies all that paranoia and fear and adult nonsense and stupidity. I guess you could argue that it's a little heavy-handed, but like...
I don't think so.
I mean, if it works, it fits. I mean, this is the time, and if something came from space, like, what better time to set it than in the 50s?
Yeah, like that's exactly how people, like freaking Kent Mansley, that is exactly how the government would react back then. Like, who did it? Who sent it here? Who's trying to attack us and take all our cool stuff?
The Chinese? The Canadians? The Martians? I don't care!
Mansley is completely McCarthy.
But he doesn't even care about protecting the country because, of course, at the end of
Neither
the film...
did McCarthy.
Exactly.
Well, I know. At the end of the film, when he launches the nuke on everybody, he's like, fuck the country, I'm saving myself. And it's like, what were you doing this whole time?
Flexing nuts.
You little man. And I mean, there aren't that many characters, to be honest. It really is Boy and his dog.
I didn't know his mom was Jennifer Aniston.
And this jerky guy. And sometimes his mom.
That's still far... Like, I remember being surprised when I learned that it was,
Yeah, I kept forgetting his mom was Jennifer Aniston.
When I learned that it was Vin Diesel as the giant, but I'm still much more surprised that it was Jennifer Aniston as the mom.
Yeah, me too.
That's still much weirder.
Don't you have a rom-com to be in?
Yeah, don't you have, like... Yeah. You're still very relevant.
Yeah, what are you doing? Because you think if they got Jennifer Aniston, like, in the 90s, or in the frickin' in 99, they would have, like, put her on the although, no, I forgot they shit the bed with the poster. Was anyone's name on the poster?
Yeah, they shit the bed with nobody's name was on the fucking poster. It just says, it came from outer space, the Iron Giant, August 6th.
Great.
That's it.
I love it. Mwah, I love it. It's great. Good job, WB.
Apparently they were going to hire Peter Cullen as the Iron Giant originally.
Yeah, but it was
but because he wasn't available.
He was busy.
Also that would have been too on the nose, and it would have basically been like an overly filtered Optimus Prime, and it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, because Optimus Prime is pretty eloquent.
Yeah, it's sort of just like
Autobots transform and roll out. Megatron, quit being a dick.
I would listen to an audiobook that, I guess it would be an audiobook, that Optimus Prime would read. I wouldn't for the Iron Giant. Like, it would take a really long time.
Iron Giant could read, like, Dr. Seuss, maybe? That'd be cute.
That'd be dope.
That would be adorable. Or Superman, like, kids' book.
Oh, yeah. He could read that counting book where Lex Luthor steals 40 cakes, and that's terrible.
and the Iron Giant would like read that for the first time and get so upset. Let's talk about the new scenes.
Yes, and what they do.
Yeah,
in the film.
Pitch them to me. Tell me what's up with these.
Okay, so the new scenes. One is sort of an extension in the diner, where after the whole squirrel thing happens, Hogarth's mom, what is her name?
Annie,
serves Dean a cup of coffee and kind of apologizes for her son. And they kind of talk a little bit about their situation. It's sort of like the first indication that they might like each other or they're interested in each other. They talk about Hogarth. It was just kind of like to make their hooking up at the end seem a little bit more natural.
I kind of liked how subtle it was, because it wasn't not there, but it was just like, because like they dropped that hint where she like appreciated his art, and he was like, "What? Like this isn't garbage? What?
Nobody has ever appreciated it."
Nobody's ever said a nice thing about my life's work.
But it was a very short scene.
Me.
I mean, the deleted scenes in total equal like 10 minutes together.
No, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Like that's very short.
I compared the runtimes because you can rent both versions on Amazon. I compared the two, and it's 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's just a little bit of extra character padding. It doesn't make their relationship any less subtle or cute. It's just
it establishes like, because it's like, I guess because I was thinking that during the film, like Hogarth's just hanging out with this stranger that the only thing his mom knows about him is like he got a squirrel up his dick.
I mean,
like one of those Amazon fish.
Their relationship is pretty interesting because they both like before they fall in love, they both love Hogarth first. And then they meet because they both like this kid. Which is kind of, like, really ideal for Annie. Like, this duder that she married, like, liked her kid before he even, like, hooked up with her.
That's usually the hardest thing about remarrying.
Yeah. But then the second scene does a lot.
Yeah.
So, it was a deleted scene that never got produced. There's an animatic made of it. You could view it on DVDs and special features for a while. And for these scenes...
I think that's also the case for the first one.
Yes. They commissioned Duncan's studio, which employed a couple animators... Which had a couple animators who did work on the original film to do these scenes and to try to seamlessly integrate it with the traditional... Because, it had picture of the giant in it, and they were trying to replicate that 90s CGI integration. And I think they did pretty well.
Yeah, visually it melded flawlessly. What happens is that it's night at the junkyard, and the giant is dreaming
after
effectively.
The thing with the soul.
After the thing with the soul, yes. He's dreaming, and he has, like, a flashback of a bunch of other Iron Giants, like, marching around a battlefield and like, weapons and everything flying everywhere, before he wakes up, like, super scared.
And planets exploding.
Yeah, planets exploding as well.
And while he's dreaming it, for some reason, I guess his electrical whatever accesses Dean's TV, because Dean is, like, asleep watching TV, and the dream starts playing.
He's watching a Jack Parr thing.
Yeah, and the dream starts playing on the TV, and he sort of slowly wakes up and he looks at it, and he's just like, what the fuck in the world is... What? And then it stops once the giant wakes up, and, like, Dean sort of, like, puts it together that the giant might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, so...
Which makes sense for Dean's character, because he always seemed to be the one who knew the most about what the giant's deal probably was.
Yeah, because later in the movie, he's, like, asserting the whole he only attacks reactionarily.
Yeah, because, like, in the theatrical cut, he infers that just by seeing Hogarth's toy gun, and I'm just like, man, this guy's smart.
Yeah. All these characters are very smart, except for Mansley. Hogarth is a very smart and mature child.
Yeah. So, this movie, I think as a deleted scene, is very interesting. I think it should have stayed deleted.
Yes.
Like, what this movie did, this scene does two things. One, it gives us more background as to where the giant came from. Which is the same kind of thing you can imply after seeing the original theatrical cut, that he's some kind of war machine from space. But it lends it's like, has a degree of explicitness that wasn't necessary, and it's kind of like what we talked about with Parasite. His origin, what he came from, what his purpose of, is completely not the point of the movie.
No.
Yep.
So it's just kind of fluff. But to me, the thing that's more egregious about it, and why is actually the reason why, like, if I were to show a kid this movie for the first time, I would show them the theatrical cut, which is something I need to consider. Like, I got a cousin who's having a kid soon. She lives nearby. So I'm going to be like, that's basically me being an uncle. And, you know, one thing I've been thinking was, what medium am I going to show this kid? How am I going to shape this kid? Because, like, the kid's name's going to be Korra. So in, like, 7 years, I'm going to show her Legend of Korra, and she's going to lose her fucking mind. That's going to be, like, the coolest thing I'll ever do to another person. But, like, so thinking about, you know, this movie, I would show the theatrical cut because it foreshadows the reveal in the third act of you know, what he's capable of in a way that dilutes that impact. Remember back to the first time you saw this movie, and, you know, when they start shooting at him and he goes berserk. He's fucking scary. This is a sweetheart baby boy robot who's been our best buddy this whole movie, and he's fucking made of guns.
His heart is a gun.
Yeah. You know, like, that shock. And then, you know, when Hogarth comes back and is like, you are what you choose to be, all that great stuff. That's diluted by this new scene, which foreshadows that shit's gonna happen. You know, before the new scene and before the third act, we have kind of no idea what this giant is for. Really at all. There's nothing that gives any hint at his purpose.
Yeah,
he's got no memory.
We get is that his eyes go red sometimes, like in the scene with the deer, and he looked at the gun, his eyes went a little red. But we don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's very subtle.
It's really good foreshadowing and pacing.
Yeah, that's very effective foreshadowing, because there's an idea like, this guy has a problem with guns. That's
Something's
fine.
up.
That's good stuff. But the idea that
he's Batman.
Yeah. But, you know, this new scene that says, oh, he's definitely a war machine from some alien war planet. Like, it's just...
It's too much, and it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, that scene is only for people who have loved this movie for the past 16 years. I think it cheapens it as a whole.
Yeah, like, I always like the vagueness, because it's like, he's a robot from space. Like, what more do you need to know? Like...
Yeah. Because he's lost his memory, and this is basically his rebirth, so his previous life is nothing but, like, a bad dream to him. Fuck. Never mind, keep it. Nah,
if I was sitting next to you, I'd be poking you right now, like, jabbing you 1 2 1 2.
Yeah. Hopefully the Blu-ray has the option to watch either.
Yeah, I think it does.
I mean, it's really just a matter of not showing two scenes. The first scene, again, it's not super necessary, but I don't think it doesn't
cheapen anything, and I think it adds a little bit extra, like, adding a little bit more of the mom. I mean, she didn't have that much screen time to begin with, so, you know, she's the only female character, so, like, you know, let her say some more stuff. But, yeah, the scene with the giant...
That reminds me of when Hogarth was, like, trying to talk Dean into keeping the giant, and he was like, where am I gonna keep it? And he just goes, not it. And I'm just like, Hogarth, you don't know. Stop gendering the giant.
Well, he was doing it to make it like he's a person.
Yeah, he was humanizing him at the expense of gendering him.
He was trying his darndest.
It was the 50s. They didn't know about singular they.
Yeah. Or really the 90s either.
It was earlier than a month ago. Oh man. But yeah, I like Dean and Annie, and having an extra scene in them would be really nice. They're both cute.
Yeah, they had a really interesting chemistry, and it was nice to see a little bit more of it. But yeah, that scene was very strange. And stylistically, it was completely different because you really went into this like chaotic, destroyed robot alien war zone. You know, and there was like a bunch of these other giants walking around and shit exploding everywhere. It was really incongruous with what every other part of the film. And, you know, I mean, and there's always, like, that tendency as a storyteller where, like, you're so excited about your characters and your story that you want to show your audience everything about them. But the reality is, like, when you're writing a story, like, you don't want to tell everything to the audience or show everything. Because it's not as compelling that way, you know? And it's just better off kept... you know, a little mysterious, like, inferred. But so, and, like, Brad Bird does have that tendency because I remember in deleted scenes for The Incredibles, there were some similar things going on where a lot of the deleted scenes consisted of him saying way too much about what was happening in the scene and in the movie overall that really didn't need to be said, that was already pretty much understood.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just a habit that he has, but that's why you work on a team.
Yeah, that's why you have editors. That's why the editor was like, you know, Brad, be rad. This doesn't work.
Hey, be rad, be radical. I gotta be real with you. I gotta, because we're tight, and you're making me cut up this film, and I gotta let you know, I don't like it. The Toon Goons giving you your weekly reminder that auteurs are mostly bullshit.
Auteurs are only as strong as their team.
It's an A-team.
A-team.
The A-team.
They're babies, and it's an aw team.
I was going by the spelling, and then you can make a pun about how they're golden.
Okay.
Because AU.
Or gratin team, like potatoes, something.
Or an alternate universe team. I don't fuck it. This is getting away from us. We gotta delete this scene.
Bleep. What else? There's definitely more to this movie.
The weird thing is there's not, but that it's such a weird thing because it's like there's so many movies that are as simple as this, but they don't do a lot.
Yeah, like this film is very simple, but why it's effective because, you know, like it has that emotional language in it that's very effective that a lot of films don't have, and that's what really brings it over the edge. And why its simple story works so well is because you really feel for these characters. You have these really beautiful, poignant moments. You have these callbacks throughout. You know, Dean, everything that Hogarth says to the giant at the end of the movie is what Dean told him in the beginning and made him feel better. You know, when he was drinking the coffee and, like, freaking out about how he doesn't have any friends and the Superman thing. It all ties together in a way that's really satisfying for a viewer, and it's relatable. It speaks to you. I mean, these seem like people that you would encounter even if it's the 50s, right? And the giant feels very alive. You know, he gets scared, he gets sad, he's happy, he has fun, he can be silly. You know, when he learns about the deer, and then when that, again, the callback later when he thinks that Hogarth dies. Just all these things, it just comes together so perfectly.
Yeah. Here's a topic I'd like to bring up. Nina often sends me her papers in college to proofread, and my favorite one of hers, which I think I actually helped give you the idea for, was about robots and souls. And you are comparing the notion of the soul as like a physical part of the body as written by some dead fucks, and then the way that as a robot... It was from my
philosophy class, just my ancient philosophy class.
And then you compared it to Big Hero 6 and WALL-E in how in those movies the soul as some kind of chip is a physical manifestation. Do you think there's something here where, like, because, I mean, we explicitly got the souls don't die, but it's not like it's really a part of him?
I mean, we don't see what's inside of him. There's always that mystery.
The thing, his body is definitely destroyed, but there's something that keeps him together, even though he's blown across the entire planet.
And
he has a homing beacon.
Is the homing beacon the soul in this metaphor? Is this anything?
Hogarth actually, I found it interesting because Hogarth actually has his own definition for what the soul is in a way, because all he says is like you have feelings, you have emotions, so you must have a soul. Like, that's the only parameters according to Hogarth for soulsmanship.
And Hogarth has definitely thought about this stuff a lot, because, like, he has a dead dad, right? His dad probably died. His dad was a fighter pilot in the Korean War, as is implied by the time period and the photograph of his dad. Which makes sense why this fucking 10 to 12-year-old kid is so calm about death. But yeah, he does have a very specific view of it. But you know, it is also sort of Christian with this idea that the soul doesn't die, or not just Christian.
I just liked it. I just liked it because it's a really good, solid, like, catch-all definition, because it's like, you know, in a lot of robot fiction, it's like, oh, you can't have a soul, you're not, like, natural, you're man-made, and it's like, and you can't, like, your emotions aren't real, they're just programmed, and it's like, man, brains are just squishy computers.
Yeah, and it's like,
they're just squishy and gross.
Because all it took for Hogarth to say that was, like, he got sad because the deer died.
Yeah, like, well, then that's it. You have emotion. You deserve having the title of having humanity. You're an equal.
Not just emotion, but having compassion and caring about things and people.
It's like you are a living being, no less than I.
Yeah.
And then we need to think about that shit more.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't think my paper really extends to the Iron Giant, because there's never we never see him from the inside. We see him blown apart and broken, but, like, we don't know how he works. All we know that's inside of him are guns that are inactive, right? Whereas
Basically.
with Wall-E and Big Hero 6, they
have chips.
They have chips. We kind of see them, their insides, what they're made out of. We see them be built and such.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was something.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a baby.
It's a giant baby.
Giant baby.
The biggest baby.
The biggest baby. Superman. Oh yeah, and there's the fact that this was the greatest Superman movie ever made.
Yep.
Yep.
No,
just like the Iron Giant's Superman, Danny Phantom Spider-Man, and Danny and Hogarth both have statues of them in their lifetime. So, two of the luckiest kids in America.
You know, we've talked a lot about doing Duck Dodgers, and I remember 2 episodes of that show. One of them was like a Dracula thing, and the other was a parody of this, which was, I remember, being very funny and extremely mean. Because in this episode, Duck Dodgers was Hogarth, and then there was the Iron Giant from space, who loved him, and Duck Dodgers was a fucking asshole to him.
That's the plot of every Duck Dodgers.
I mean,
and like, so like,
Daffy.
but like the bit, like when he's flying up to hit the bomb, is like the quote that plays in his head instead of "You are what you choose to be." It's Daffy going, "I could use a pedicure."
I remember that bit now, and
yeah,
the only other episode I remember was Duck Dodgers had a dream where he was literally just Samurai Jack, and it was animated like an episode of Samurai Jack. And the Aku stand-in was still voiced by Mako.
Oh, that's cool. Man, we will get to that show, but man, there were too many episodes. Alright, so, is there anything else about this movie? Because, like, I think a lot of it speaks for itself.
It really does.
And at the same time, there's still, like, a lot to go through? I don't know, man. Oh, here's a cool thing. The 2 train guys, who were in the train that got hit by the Iron Giant himself.
Mm-hmm.
By his head.
Yeah, were Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas, who were animators and members of Disney's 9 Old Men, who were the Walt Disney Company's core animators from Snow White to the Rescuers. They are the realest deal.
Yeah. And they're modeled after their real-life counterparts. It just sort of is them. And another sort of Disney thing is that the TV, when the hand of the Iron Giant is watching TV, Bird wanted him to be watching the Disneyland specials. And they couldn't do that for the original film, but for the signature edition, they were able to procure the rights for that.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty cute. That, I think, is all I have to say. Cause
I think we're pretty good on this.
It's
just
an
beautiful.
Objectively
good and important film, and I cried through most of the... I didn't even... I cried at the sad parts the least. I just cried... I just cried at a lot of the just important moments that just made me feel things. Yeah.
I actually didn't cry in the theaters. I laughed a lot, though.
This movie's funny.
Here's the thing. It makes a lot of sense that Brad Bird would go on to do Pixar, because this is a Pixar. This has the heart of a Pixar movie. It's obviously like one of the most heartfelt movies you'll ever see, but it's also ludicrously funny.
Yeah.
Like, even the trailer lines that I heard a million times, that I've seen GIFs on Tumblr a million times, like, when I actually watch this movie in the context of the film, like, it's funny. Just this, like, seeing a scrawny little twerp just go, "I'm hip." And just like when, like the best delivered line, like after the cannonball, and he's just standing in the middle of the road all wet, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, you're in the middle of the road, yeah?"
Yeah.
Like, indignant. Like, I fucking know what I'm doing. I like being here.
Right. Speaking of Dean, he's really fucking handsome, and he was mostly animated by women, including Lauren Faust, so you can thank her for his handsomeness.
Fuck, if I meet her, that's what I'm going to thank her for first and foremost.
When he pours out the coffee and just walks back inside the house.
Yeah, I was talking about the extended edition with some friends of mine, and a lesbian friend of mine, even a lesbian friend was like, "There's more Dean, right? That's the most important thing. Everybody likes
Dean's
Dean.
The best.
Nobody's more Dean.
Everyone, there's something to like about Dean for everybody. He's an artist. He's a hip, cool beatnik. He's handsome. He's a good stepdad. He likes garbage.
He's smart. Figures out robots.
He objectively, just based on inference, he's Oscar the Grouch's favorite character in this movie. Has to be.
All right.